Adam Whitty. Welcome to episode 9 of Build Your Authority.
Joe Bardavia.
We're almost to the finish line, Adam, and episode 9 is going to be about social media. We just finished speaking with Natalie Mazzarella about building a brand, and how do you build a brand? With social media. And I know this has been a journey for you, Adam, to embrace social media, and you've really taken this journey head on. But you started your authority journey well before the fact that you had to have like a Twitter account or a LinkedIn account. And now it's basically like you don't exist if you're not, especially in the world of business. If you don't have a LinkedIn account, you might as well be a ghost. So tell me about in terms of like how social media fits in the world of authority.
Well, Joe, first and foremost, thank you for dating me and letting everybody know how old I am, because I began my journey before social media even existed. And look, it plays a really big part. One of the things we talk about a lot are the three different types of media: owned media, earned media, rented media. And that's what social media is. It's rented media. You are renting space, for lack of a better word, on someone else's platform, whether that's the LinkedIn platform, the Facebook platform, Instagram, X, you name it, right? And the beautiful thing about rented media, aka social media, is that for a very low cost, in some cases no cost at all, you have this platform where you can access a global audience of potential customers or fans. And that's very, very appealing. The downside of that, because there's such a low barrier to entry, there's a lot of noise. And so standing out is even more important. And obviously that's one of the things that Callie is so good at, is helping CEOs and leaders have authentic brand on social media strategies. So it's really important. And I'm excited that Callie is on the show with us.
Yeah, Callie Hitchcock is the director of digital strategy, a digital media expert who crafts compelling stories and impactful campaigns to build brand awareness and drive business growth. Callie, welcome to Build Your Authority.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So, Callie, you heard about the importance of social media. You know all about it. You've been doing this for a few years. So let's start with some of the key elements to build that strong social media strategy. Because like Adam said, the barrier to entry is very low. Essentially, if you have a phone and fingers, you can be on social media. But tie that together in terms of the word strategy to build authority.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between being present on social media and being optimal on social media. Like you said, anybody can have an account, but it's really the strategies that you put into place that make a difference from the chatter across the digital world. So one of the things that I like to start with is an enhanced profile. You want to make sure that every aspect of your profile is up to date, that you're filling in any places that you can. You want to have consistent branding throughout. That's not just images and logos and colors, but that's your brand voice. So making sure that your key messaging is succinct, that you're getting across what you want to say, and that you're ultimately reaching out to that target audience that you want to talk to. And there's a few things that I really like to hone in on once you get those kind of basics under your belt. And that's honing in on what makes you unique, how you can edge out against the competition, making sure that you're staying as authentic as possible, and meeting people where they are. So those are some of the things that I would say make for a great social strategy.
You know, Callie, one of the comments that I'll hear from CEOs and entrepreneurs when it comes to social, especially if they're not really actively on social, is there's this common mindset that I need to be on all of them. And I've heard you say many times, and I have said this too, no, you need to be where your audience is. So let's talk about how someone thinks through what platforms they need to be on. How do you figure that out?
Great question. I do 100% agree that quality is always better. So if you're going to be on a network, you need to give it your all, but you need to choose the network strategically by where your target audience is. So the first thing you have to figure out is, who's my target audience? Because they may be on Instagram, they may not be on LinkedIn, they may be on Facebook. So I agree. I think that it's more important to only be on the networks that you can 100% commit to making the best content available there, and commit to a steady cadence. If you can't do that and you feel like you're stretching yourself too thin to appear on every network, that's just not important. What's important is that you're reaching the target audience that you want to talk to most. So I always recommend that our clients start with 1 to 2 platforms that they feel like they can give the most of their energy, and make it the best that it can be. There are differing opinions from mine. So just to cover our bases, I would say some people do say you should own your own real estate as far as your name and your brand goes. So I don't think it hurts to go ahead and grab that handle, grab a username on these various platforms, because you never know. Social media changes daily, algorithms change daily. We can look at X or Twitter, as of last year, as a great case study, because a lot of journalists used to be on Twitter. And if you wanted to reach out to hopefully get your message across to people in the media, you probably would have wanted to been very active on Twitter. But Twitter today is not the Twitter of last year. So for that sake, I think it's great to have the username or handle for a rainy day, just in case the platform changes or your audience moves, because we've seen that happen with X. But also, I don't think that you have to actually utilize that. You can make the channel private and not actually utilize it, but still keep the real estate for if you need it later on down the road. But I think it's more important that you're really using those networks and honing in on where your target audience is.
I'll use myself as an example and a case in point. So I am not on social media a lot privately outside of the workplace. And professionally, I wasn't very active on social media for a long while. And I'll credit you and many professionals in our organization of telling me, Adam, you're too quiet. You need to be more visible. And of course, certainly that's something that our company sells. So it was a bit incongruent for me not to have an active social presence when one of the core services that our media services team provides is support with digital media and strategy. And when I made the commitment to be more active, I knew that I could only do one. And our audience is clearly CEOs and entrepreneurs. That's who we serve. That's who we speak to. That's who we want to educate with fabulous content like what I hope we're creating in the Build Your Authority podcast. And so for me, it was a no-brainer. The platform to be on was LinkedIn. And I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to do it half-heartedly. And so now, thanks to not only encouragement, but also education from the fine team that we have here, I'm hyperactive on LinkedIn. And I have seen the results of that in terms of the connections, and the connections then turning into business conversations and business relationship enhancements. So I just want to double down on Callie's comment that, for a lot of people, social media is a bit intimidating and overwhelming. You've already got a full plate professionally. How am I going to find the time to add this on top of it? And so I just picked one, but committed to really being very active on that one platform.
That's awesome. And Callie, I always look to keep things simple. And one thing that I find humorous with a lot of folks, not a lot, but a few that come through our doors that want to build their authority, is the idea of having a professional headshot. You have no idea, and well, Callie, you do, of how many people will walk in and be like, yeah, I don't have a picture. I'm like, well, you need that. So let's talk about the simplicity of that headshot. What people don't realize how easy it is to actually do, whether it's on your phone, have your friend do it, but how important is having that professional looking headshot? And I know this is super simple. People will be like, yeah, I know you need to get a headshot, but more people don't realize the importance of that as much as you think they would.
Exactly. You would be surprised, or maybe not, by how many people come to us with very dated assets in terms of photos and videos. And we have been able to, direct them towards some great photographers or videographers to help them. But yes, a headshot, something as simple as a headshot, can go so far, not only on social media, but on your website, on your emails, things like that. Any webinars that you want to do, if there's a bio section, that headshot can be repurposed there. If you decide to publish a book, it's great for your author page. There's so many different ways that you can use a headshot, and I'll even expand on that to say, um, some bigger pictures, like landscape pictures of you with maybe a fuller body shot, that you could use as a hero image for your website or things like that. Media is so important in getting a sense of who you are across, without having to say anything at all. So, I actually have a funny example. Well, not funny, but an example recently that comes to mind where one of our members was really wanting to position themselves as a speaker. And I was auditing the current digital and social footprint that they have, but none of the imagery that they're using showcases them as a speaker. So something as simple as that, and something that I kind of like to tell people, this might be a top secret type tip, but you can stage those. If you are someone who wants to be a speaker, but you haven't actively had speaking engagements in the past, why not rent out an auditorium, go stand on the stage, get your professional photographer there with you, and showcase yourself how you want to be. Kind of, if you build it, they will come sense. But if you kind of position yourself as that speaker, and start showcasing yourself, your skills, your message, and what makes you unique so that people want to book you to speak or whatever else your service may be. Imagery can help you achieve that.
Joe, I'll use LinkedIn as an example, and this is super simple. Every LinkedIn profile page has a header. And the large majority of people, the header is the default in LinkedIn. And it's so simple to create a compelling visual for your header. And while that doesn't do the trick for everything else, that's just one piece of what does the trick for everything else. Visuals matter, just to back up what Callie's saying. And the more compelling and impressive and stunning the visuals are, the more of a factor it has, and that builds your authority.
So, Callie, outside of images, what other content is effective for demonstrating expertise and building authority on social media? We got the pictures down, Pat. We got the simple stuff. Now let's get a little more complicated.
There are so many different avenues that you can take when it comes to how you're delivering your message. Obviously, there's written form, whether it be short form as a post, long form as an article or a blog. Now, LinkedIn even has, the newsletter thing where you can subscribe to people's content, so it hits your inbox whenever it's published. Video is one of the things that I think oftentimes people are too shy to embrace, or they don't think that they can do it. I mean, we right now are doing this podcast with a video element. It's very important that we start showcasing more videos or stepping out of our comfort zones if that's something that we're not already doing, because video is very much becoming more and more popular, and it's not going to go away as we're living in this more virtual world. If I could say that, I think that we kind of have to reach across the screen and start connecting with people via video. You can say so many more things in such a short amount of time with a video versus written content. So that's one thing that I would really encourage all of our social media users to test out. You're probably not going to be a professional the first time. If you are, that's amazing, but it gets better with time. So I would just encourage you to continue trying, maybe set a day where you can, have a follow-up Friday and follow up on a question you post earlier in the week via an engagement post, or, a live on Tuesdays. We have Title Talk Tuesdays where we share our recently published books, but you can kind of come up with your own alliteration and own a day and have that, engagement with your target audience so that they can come back and listen to you. Or you can do it in a written format. But I do think that video is something that we can't ignore as far as social media goes.
Joe, one of the things that Rusty and I talk a lot about, look at this product placement in our book, The Authority Advantage. There we go. We talk about content, and this is very applicable to the discussion on content on social media. What kind of content should I create? What should it be about? And we like to say that there's this very simple formula of a third, a third, a third. A third of what we call you-driven content. So this is content where you're educating, you're talking about your expertise, your experience, and then from time to time peppering in some of the personal stuff. I've always been a big believer that oftentimes people will remember and latch on to the personal stuff a lot more quickly than they will the professional stuff. So a third of that content should be what I'll call you driven content. Another third of that content should be what we call news driven content. So that is following the things that are happening in the world, the news stories that are shaping each and every day, and finding a way to insert yourself into that, right? Talking about something that directly is relevant or ties into, something that's happening in the world. I'll give a very simple example. As we record this podcast and as it will go live, interest rates for buying a home are at 20-year highs. So if you're in the financial services industry, if you're a wealth advisor, if you're a financial planner, helping educate people as to how do you take advantage of what otherwise seems like a tough place to be if you want to buy a home, right? And if you really want to buy your first home and interest rates are keeping you out of the game, well, where else could you be putting your money right now that would get you a good return on investment? That's a way for somebody in the financial services industry to capitalize on what's happening in the news and create content that's relevant. The third and final piece is what we call relationship-driven content. And relationship-driven content is leveraging relationships that you have to create content. And all the better if that person that you're creating content with has high authority, you get to benefit from what we call authority by association. This podcast recording is an example of that. I have a wonderful relationship with you, Joe. You're the executive producer of the Forbes Books podcast. I have a great relationship with Callie, who's the director of digital strategy for Advantage Media and Forbes Books. And we are also lucky to work together and all have expertise that we're able to bring together through our relationship to benefit our audience. And hopefully when this podcast goes live, Callie is going to talk about it on her social media accounts. So people that follow her and are a part of her audience are going to be exposed to me. And when I talk about it on my social accounts, people that know me are going to be exposed to Callie. So it has this wonderful reciprocal effect. So for all of our viewers and listeners, when the question comes, well, what do I talk about? Just remember, a third of it should be about you and your expertise. A third of it should be tapping into something that's happening in the world or happening in the news. And a third of it should be leveraging relationships you have to co-create content together.
That's really accurate. I would say I love the thirds breakdown. I don't know if I've heard you say it that way, Adam, before, but I love that. I would just say whenever you're doing you content, just make sure that you're not being too self-promotional. Obviously, you do want to share the things that you have to share with people, or the the calls to action that you hope people will take, but do it sparingly and in a tactful way so that you're not turning off your audience. You don't want, at the end of the day, somebody to unfollow you, unsubscribe, whatever it may be. You want to continue growing that audience. And the best way to do that is by forming that relationship with them. And you can do that through the other 2/3 that Adam was talking about as well. The news, so pulling in those relevant topics. There's actually some great SEO tools that you can use. So you can use some of the key phrases from, PR or news stories, put them into some of these SEO tools. And actually, it will tell you things that people are searching for relating to those keywords and phrases so that you can then write topics about those specific things and people can find the answers in the content that you're writing and sharing. And then 100% right on the relationship aspect. So social media, I mean, you can do a great job with your profile. You can have it fully optimized. You can have wonderful content that's resourceful, informative, engaging. But at the end of the day, if people aren't seeing it and engaging with it, if you aren't engaging with them, then it's going to go nowhere. At the end of the day, we are all kind of slaves to this algorithm on each platform, and you have to play the algorithm game in order for your content to make it into your audience's feeds. So there's a lot of things that goes into that. One of which is making sure that you're being consistent in when you post and how often. Another thing is just doing engagement, outreach engagement. So making sure that you're not just waiting for people to come and take the bait that you've thrown out there, but you're actually going to other people's content, engaging with them. I always love to say too, don't just say, thanks, congratulations, this is awesome. Those are very surface level responses. I would always encourage you to share something a bit more in depth. If you're reading someone's blog and then you want to share it, take out a specific excerpt from the blog and tell the audience why it's important to you, why it resonated with you, or share your own experience in how that was the case for you, or maybe it wasn't the case. Say, that's interesting that you make this point because for me, it's been X, Y, and Z. And you can kind of piggyback on their content, their audience, but also share your own expertise through that explanation, through that comment, whatever it may be.
I love that. And Callie, my friend Ben Rishardi's a big internet star. He's got 1 million followers on Instagram. He helps people build their marketing. And he said to me, you mentioned the word algorithm. He said, these platforms are not built for you. They're not there to help you build your authority because they don't care. They want engagement. So the second you go dark, the algorithm will say, oh, I don't care about that person. They're going to push their people all the way down the field. And then all of a sudden the people that are creating content will essentially jump the line. So you mentioned consistency. You mentioned the importance of being, engaged with your audience, but the algorithm, if you don't put something out, the algorithm ain't going to show you to anybody.
Correct. I mean, you can't be circulated for something you never posted. So you have to post to begin with. And being consistent is a part of that. So you can't just post once a month and expect, your following to organically grow. I'm sorry, but it's probably not going to happen unless you just, have a magic wand or something at your disposal. So you really have to be consistent in how often you're posting and regularly carve out some time. It could be as little as 5 minutes a week to go out and comment, engage, repost other people's content in the hopes that you're circulating your own, but you're also building relationships and connections with other thought leaders. And that's what Adam was saying, like authority by relationship. So partnering with other people, kind of piggybacking on their own audiences and hopefully getting some eyeballs on your own content as well.
So, Callie, you've been doing this for a long time. You have worked with hundreds.
Now who's aging who, Adam?
Oh boy. Hundreds of CEOs and entrepreneurs you have served. I didn't say thousands, I said hundreds. What are the common mistakes you see most people make?
It's a great
Where to
question.
begin, right?
I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make, it's actually they hurt themselves by thinking that they're doing a good job. And sometimes it's very hard to be realistic with the product that you're putting out there as far as your own content, and your own information resources, etc. So I think one of the things that really hurts people is that they may be putting out content. They think that their profile is optimized. They think they have a brand that's very visible and consistent. But then someone like me comes in and does an audit, and I see a lot of red flags, a lot of empty spaces, a lot of things that could be optimized or changed. So I think oftentimes that can be a big hurdle, but it's easy to remedy if you're open to learning. All people have to do is have an open mind about wanting to get better and listening to recommendations, and then putting in the work. Like I said before, consistency. You can't just post something, one time. You can't just do one video. You're going to get better the more often that you do it. Your audience is going to grow. They're going to continue to see that you are somebody that they can continue to go back to. So building that relationship and having that ongoing content stream that people will want to continuously come back and check up on, to see what you're saying. I know I have people that I follow on social media that I love going back and looking at their account. I don't even have to wait for the algorithm to put them in my feed. I want to go see what they're sharing. So that is always the goal with our clients, is that people see them as such an authority and they feel like they have this personal relationship or even professional relationship, but social media, we know, kind of crosses that line of personal professional, where they feel like they want to come and check in and see what's up with you, what's going on lately, what are your updates. So my biggest thing that I think people kind of need to get out of their own way sometimes, and just be open to getting better. These algorithms change. I wouldn't even say weekly, I'd say daily at times. And you have to be open to progressing or you're going to get left behind.
Let's wrap up talking about some geeky analytical stuff, Callie, because one of the things that you work with is analyzing the data that you're getting, what kind of engagement. And I know this could be like a frustrating point for a lot of people that you work with and anyone just starting their authority journey with social media. I jokingly tell the story that I published a podcast a little while ago, and the member asked me the next day how many downloads it got. I'm like, I think 0. It's only been up there for a day. So what are some of the analytics and sort of data that you could share with members that can sort of maybe motivate them or just show the results of their actions on social media?
Yeah, social media has a ton of analytics that you can choose from depending on the platform. There are some platforms that definitely give you a little bit more of the numbers, peek behind the curtain type thing, and others do not. LinkedIn is one that doesn't give me as many analytics as I would love, which is sad because that's one of the platforms we use most. But Facebook, Meta, they are very robust in their analytics, so you can see a lot more granular data. But even if we carry this over to websites as well, I know I'm specifically more so talking about social media, but website can tie into a lot of your social media efforts. You can put UTM tracking codes in the links that you're sharing on posts on social media and see if those are actually leading to traffic on your website through analytics. There's a lot of tools with social media schedulers or Google Analytics and things like that, where you can get all of your analytics in a dashboard form and see what's happening. Where are you getting the most of your traffic coming from? Is it referral? What type of source? What type of medium? Are people using phones? Are they using desktops? A lot of times we would think in this day and age, most people are visiting pages on their phone, but a lot of our clients are visiting us on desktops, which is not surprising because they're professionals. So they're probably doing it at work on a computer. So things like that, knowing your target audience and what type of platforms, mediums, things like that they're going to share can also help you with making sure that for your website that it's mobile ready, it's optimized for mobile. And for social media, making sure that if something is engaging, if a certain type of post is getting great engagement organically, you can plan to have more type of posts like that for your future posts so that you're continuously getting optimal engagement. So there's a lot of ways that analytics can help us. Numbers don't lie unless you get some crazy bot experience that, wrecks your page or something. But I love to go back to the numbers because it's a great way to inform you on the shift changes that you can make in your strategy, social media or personal brand, to kind of enhance your traffic flow and lead generation, all that good stuff.
And so let's talk about sometimes the difficulties of this engagement. And when you get clients who'll be like, Callie, I posted this on LinkedIn and I only got 3 likes. How do you deal with that? Because this is a frustration that happens with anyone who becomes a content creator. They're going to start like a joke with 0, and they're going to have to work their way up. So what do you talk? Give us some good words. Give us some of that Southern charm of yours, Callie. Tell us how you get through those early rough stages of building your authority on social media.
Yeah, I love the Southern charm aspect of it. I'll do my best for you, Joe. I think that really you just kind of have to keep going. Perseverance, continuing to learn from the things that you're doing. You're only going to get better if you keep trying. So making sure that you're doing a lot of the things that I already talked about, optimizing that profile, being consistent in your branding, key messages, making sure that you're reaching the audiences where they are. Don't expect to have great results on Facebook if your audience is on LinkedIn. And you're not going to be an overnight success unless you just blow up over the internet for something that went viral, which is very unlikely to happen. I'd love to see a statistic on what's more likely to happen than you going viral, because it would probably be a lot of things. But if you are going to be continuously doing all these things, you're checking off all of these recommendations that I've had, and you're still not seeing engagement, the next thing that I would say is what other elements of your strategy do you have in place? Like Adam was saying earlier, paid, earned, shared, owned. I like to call the peso model. He does earned, owned, rented. But yeah, making sure that you're having all those elements of strategy tying together. You're not just on social media, because that's only one pillar of the media strategy that you need to be putting into place. You got to make sure that you have your whole digital footprint tied together. And you got to make sure that these things are all working in coordination together. You don't want, your right hand doing one thing and not talking to the left hand. You got to make sure that everything's working in coordination together. You don't want to be asking for leads but not driving them anywhere or capturing information. And then there's always advertising. It's one of the things that I specialize, I'd say, in. And so I think that ads are an easier way to kind of grow your reach, your audience, your awareness in a smaller amount of time, because a lot of times people do want kind of an overnight success, and that's very hard to achieve organically, especially if you have a more fresh, profile. If you're newer to the social media game, it can be a way for you to not only drum up followers and things like that, but also to increase engagement and therefore website clicks, lead generation form fills, whatever it is that is your goal.
Callie, folks needed more information from you. Where's the best place to start? How can people get a hold of you?
Obviously, you can visit me on LinkedIn. I'd love to chat with you. So connect with me on LinkedIn, Callie Hitchcock, or visit us on the Advantage Media and Forbes Books websites.
Awesome. Callie, thanks again for the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
So, Adam, next week we are going to wrap up season 1 of Build Your Authority, and we're going to do a deep dive into me. We're going to talk about podcasting next week, Adam. What do you think people will learn next week obviously, just the idea of just getting deeper into me, Adam. What do you think we're going to learn about next week?
Joe, we are going to end season 1 with a bang. We are going to have your melodic voice to lull us to sleep. We are going to really get into the power of spoken audio. Obviously, authors probably know that because many of them have audiobooks, but these things called podcasts, which have really allowed content creators to have a direct relationship with their audience, to be able to create content in real time based on breaking news, based upon topics that are of interest to their audience. It's a very unique way for thought leaders to not only build their brand, build their authority, but also to build an audience too. So I'm super excited.
Cool. Awesome. Adam, I'll see you next week.
Looking forward to it.